table 2 in a second. We're going to be opening ace 4. I'm sorry, we're going to be opening pocket 4s on table 2. And sort of an interesting hand comes up, or at least just an interesting c-bet dilemma that I think a lot of players struggle with here. Is we do something really interesting, quite honestly. We c-bet here, and then when we get check raised against an aggressive opponent, we actually go for a call here. So, first of all, I will say, if you are going to be check raising this sort of hand, if you're going to be c-betting this hand, you do have to make some moves occasionally, knowing that your opponents probably have a decent idea that you're going to be 3-betting more often than not. I certainly prefer checking back here far more than c-betting. And you guys obviously, hopefully by now, you would have seen the c-betting lesson that I had on this, where it talks about how to play some of these more middling hands. But I think that this is just allowing your opponents to mess with us far too often here. And additionally, and more importantly, we're really going to be left to a guessing game a lot of the time. So let's just say the more standard scenario happens and we end up calling the flop, or we get called on the flop. What happens on the turn? What are going to be good cards for us to proceed with on the turn? Should we turn our hand into a bluff? Should we go to showdown with this sort of hand? What sort of hands can pop up on the river? How weak does my hand look on the turn once we check back? Answer is very weak. So I actually think that by checking back, we widen our range, and in fact, we also widen our value betting range here. I definitely would be checking back to mix it up occasionally. Hands like pocket kings without a diamond, pocket nines without a diamond, things like that. So I think by checking back, it actually keeps our range stronger and allows us to make more moves. When we get check raised here, unless I have an incredibly good read on an opponent, I'm just going to be folding here. If I do have a good read, though, that he's weak, this is another situation where we talked about before that our opponent desperately needs to be picking up on the idea that our opponents, if they're weak, we need to be pouncing on that immediately. There's so many cards that can come off on the turn in river that would embolden our opponents to continue betting here, or to make some really crazy moves, that there's no reason to do that. Sure, we got the check raise out of them. We should be happy with that if we think they're bluffing. Throw in a 3-bet and be done with the hand, please. Instead, we go into check call mode on the flop. And this sort of situation, if we know that he's going to be one and done, is good on a lot of different boards. But it's certainly not good on this sort of board. Because, again, there's just going to be so many scare cards for us. I mean, we don't think a diamond is a particularly great card for us. Any over card could give us some problems. Particularly because we bet so small. We see bet so small as well. So, really, a situation where we definitely need to be more cautious with our c-bets here. Again, we just get stuck in a pretty gross situation here. At the time, I was thinking, once he checks here on the turn, I think that we could, he could be bluffing a decent amount of the time there. But again, I think it's just such a guessing. We're in just such a guessing situation there that it's all prompted by the poor c-bet. And honestly, we're also making a mistake, in my opinion, by then responding with the call on the flop, because he's just going to have so many cards that he can do things with there. I'm going to be opening ace-4 offsuit. Again, on the lighter side of things, if things are going poorly, I would definitely be folding here, but not going to be the end of the world, obviously. Pretty standard c-bet here, particularly with the backdoor diamond draw. Against certain players, I would also check raise here just to mix it up occasionally, because our checking range here in general is just going to be so weak that we need to strengthen it up with some either check raise for bluff or also check raises for value if he has had a hand such as pocket queens there or something. We'd definitely be check raising there. The one sort of hand you really don't want to be check raising all that much is a draw, because it looks exactly like a draw, even if a draw on that board does have some strength.